Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. We're all about bringing you practical insights for sales and revenue leaders. And today we're tackling a topic that's top of mind for all of us in 2025 competitive selling.
Absolutely.
And to guide us through this complex landscape, we have Nova, an expert in competitive sales strategies with us.
Thanks for having me.
So Nova, our listeners, they're facing a challenge that's only getting tougher, right? How do we stand out to prospects when they have more options and more information than ever before?
It's a great question, and it's something every sales leader is grappling with right now. I mean, the reality is B2B customers typically consider at least 3 to 5 competitors before making a decision, and those buyers are incredibly informed these days.
Yeah, absolutely. They've done the research.
They really have.
Yep.
So your sales teams can't just focus on presenting solutions anymore. They need to clearly articulate why a prospect should choose them over everyone else. That's the core of competitive selling.
Okay, so how do we move beyond simply listing features and benefits and really drive that point home?
So competitive selling is about understanding your rival's strengths and weaknesses and then using that knowledge to highlight your unique value. It's about adapting your tactics and messaging to really showcase what sets your product apart from the competition.
So it's not about bad-mouthing the competition, right? It's more about providing context.
Exactly. It's not about negativity. It's about positioning yourself as a trusted advisor. You build credibility by objectively analyzing the competitive landscape and helping the customer make the best decision for their needs.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
But why is this more critical now than ever before?
Well, transparency is the name of the game. Now, buyers have access to so much information, online reviews, comparisons, benchmarks. They expect you to address the competitive landscape openly and honestly.
So we can't shy away from those comparisons.
Right, and when you approach it the right way, it demonstrates that you're a partner who's invested in their success, not just trying to make a quick sale.
I see. It sounds like this approach really forces you to focus on what matters most to the customer.
It absolutely does. Competitive selling compels you to understand your customers' needs deeply and articulate your value proposition in a way that truly resonates with them.
So how can sales leaders start implementing a competitive selling strategy? Are there any proven frameworks they can use?
Absolutely. There are 3 well-established approaches that have proven to be successful. The first one is cost leadership.
Okay.
This is where your goal is to be the most cost-efficient option in the market. Think of a company like Walmart.
Got it. So you're appealing to the budget-conscious buyer.
Exactly. This approach requires really streamlined operations, economies of scale, strong vendor relationships. You're all about maximizing efficiency to offer the best price.
Makes sense. What's the next approach?
The second approach is cost focus. It's similar to cost leadership, but it's targeted to a specific niche instead of the entire market. Think of a company like H&M offering trendy clothes to young, budget-conscious shoppers.
So you're not trying to be everything to everyone. You're focusing on a specific segment where cost is a primary driver.
You got it. This requires a really focused offering, staying on top of trends and delivering a streamlined value proposition tailored to that audience.
Interesting. And the third approach?
The third approach is differentiation focus. This is about creating unique value for a narrow market, often at a premium price. Think Rolex watches or Whole Foods.
Okay, so these are brands that are known for their quality and their distinct offerings.
Right. They rely on having a really compelling brand story and a strong emphasis on perceived customer value. It's not about being the cheapest, it's about being the best.
I see. So we have cost-driven approaches and then a value-driven approach.
Yeah.
But no matter which path you choose, it seems like having a rock-solid, unique value proposition or UVP is absolutely crucial.
You're absolutely right. Your UVP is the cornerstone of your competitive selling strategy. It's the answer to the question, why should I choose you over all the other options out there? It goes beyond just explaining what you do. It's about making a compelling case for why customers should choose you specifically.
Can you give us some examples of companies that really nail their UVP?
Absolutely. Think about Apple. Their UVT centers around design innovation and a seamless user experience. Or HubSpot. They position themselves as the all-in-one CRM solution for growth. These companies clearly articulate why they're different and better for their target audience.
Those are great examples. So how can our listeners make sure that their UVP truly resonates with their customers?
It all starts with data. You need to leverage customer data. Mine reviews social media surveys, sales calls, anything that gives you insight into what your customers are saying and what they truly care about.
So understanding how your customers talk about you and your competitors, what their priorities are and what their pain points are.
Exactly. You need to speak their language, reflect their needs, and differentiate yourself based on what matters most to them. It's not something you just create once and forget about.
Right, it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Exactly. The market's constantly evolving. Customer needs change. So your UVP needs to be a living, breathing thing.
Makes sense. How do we keep it fresh and relevant?
You have to continuously gather feedback from your customers, run pulse checks, analyze those sales conversations, figure out what's resonating, what's falling flat, and adapt accordingly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I imagine there are tools that can help with this whole process.
absolutely. And that's where revenue intelligence tools come in. Tools like Meet Record can be a game changer for competitive selling.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Imagine having AI analyze all of your customer interactions, telling you exactly what's working and what needs tweaking.
Wow, that sounds incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
I know the article mentioned a company called CoverFlex. They saw a 35% increase in prospect engagement.
45%.
Yeah, just by using Meet Records insights to align their messaging with actual customer expectations.
That's huge. It really highlights the power of data-driven insights when it comes to competitive selling.
So we've covered the importance of competitive selling, the different approaches, and the crucial role of a strong UVP. But how do we actually put this into practice? What strategies can sales teams use in those real-world scenarios?
That's where it gets really interesting. The article outlines 3 strategic techniques that can help your sales team stand out from the competition without resorting to negativity or any kind of underhanded tactics.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about the first one.
The first technique is all about finding the weaknesses hidden within your competitor's strengths. Every strength has a trade-off.
I see. So it's kind of like a judo move. You're using their strength against them.
Exactly. Can you think of an example?
Let's say a competitor's platform is known for being incredibly comprehensive. They have every feature imaginable.
Okay.
On the surface, that sounds great. But the flip side might be that it's incredibly complex and difficult to use.
Exactly. That's where you come in.
Okay. So you position your product as the simpler, more user-friendly alternative.
That's it. You're not saying their product is bad. You're simply highlighting the trade-off and positioning yourself as the solution that avoids that particular pitfall.
I like it. It's a subtle but effective way to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. But what happens when a prospect brings up a competitor directly during a sales conversation? How do you handle those situations gracefully?
That's a great question. The article recommends using something called the ARR framework.
ARR framework.
Yeah, it stands for Address, Reframe, Redirect.
Okay, let's break that down. What does each step involve?
First, you address the concern directly. Don't try to dodge it or dismiss it.
So acknowledge that the competitor might have a longer track record or a lower price or whatever their concern is.
Right. Then you reframe the situation, shifting the focus to a more favorable context for your product.
Okay, so for example, you might say, yes, they've been around longer, but as a newer company, we're more agile and innovative.
Perfect. You're taking their concern and turning it into an opportunity to highlight your strengths. And finally, you redirect the conversation by steering it towards your offering's specific advantages.
So you might offer case studies of clients who switched from that competitor and saw great results.
Exactly. You're demonstrating that you understand their concerns. You're offering a different perspective, and you're backing it up with concrete evidence.
The ARR framework seems like a really useful tool.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to keep that one in mind. Okay, so we've talked about finding weaknesses in competitor strengths and handling competitor mentions gracefully. What's the third strategic technique?
This one is all about seeking consent before you dive into your differentiators.
Interesting. So instead of just launching into a critique of the competition, you're getting permission first.
Exactly. It's a subtle but powerful shift. You're not being pushy or negative. You're inviting the prospect to explore your strengths in a more collaborative way.
So you might say something like, I know you're also considering X. Would it be helpful if I shared how our approach is different?
Perfect. You're giving them the control and showing respect for their decision-making process.
And of course, you'd want to back up those claims with data, right?
Absolutely. You're not just saying you're better, you're showing them how you're better. For example, you could say, our customers report 20% faster onboarding, which means they start seeing results in just 2 weeks. That's the kind of concrete evidence that really makes an impact.
I love it. These strategies feel very ethical and customer-centric, which is fantastic. Now let's move on to
Right. And it's a great time to capitalize on early engagement. Maybe offer a free audit or a trial. Build that trust early on before a competitor gets a
Makes
chance.
sense. And don't wait until the last minute to highlight your competitive advantages.
Exactly. Don't bury the lead. Lead with your key differentiators from the start. Use customer stories or case studies to back up those claims.
Timing is everything. What's the next tactical tip?
This one is all about building relationships,
Okay.
and not just with the decision makers.
So you're saying don't just focus on the CEO or the department head.
Right. You need to connect with the gatekeepers, the influencers, even the end users within the organization.
So the people who might be using your product on a daily basis.
Exactly. They can be powerful advocates for your solution internally.
Huh.
The more trust you build at multiple levels, the stronger your position becomes.
It's like building a coalition of support within the company.
Yeah.
Okay. What's tip number 3?
Personalization. Your pitch needs to be tailored to the specific prospect you're talking to.
So no more generic presentations or one-size-fits-all approaches.
No way. You need to speak their language. Use case studies and examples that are relevant to their industry and their specific challenges.
Show them that you've done your homework and you understand their needs and how your solution can help them achieve their goals.
Exactly. And finally, tip number 4, differentiate on service and support.
That's a good one. There's so much focus on the product itself, but the post-sales experience is just as important.
It absolutely is. You need to highlight what makes your service and support superior. Do you have faster response times, higher customer satisfaction ratings, a dedicated onboarding team? Make sure you're emphasizing those advantages.
And back it up with data. Our average response time is 2 hours compared to the industry average of 6.
I love that. You can even create a compare-S document that lays out all of your service metrics side by side with your competitors, or offer a service guarantee to build even more confidence.
These tactical tips are so helpful. I'm feeling much more equipped to tackle this whole competitive selling thing now. But it's not just about the tactics, right? It's also about having the right skills and the right mindset.
You got it. Let's talk about those 3 key skills that the article highlights for mastering competitive selling.
Okay, I'm ready. What's the first one?
So the first one is deep product knowledge, but it goes beyond that.
Okay.
It's not just knowing your product inside and out, it's also having deep domain knowledge.
Okay. So you need to understand how your product applies to specific industries and customer needs.
Exactly. Your sales team needs to be fluent in the language of their customers' businesses. They need to be able to connect the dots between features and real-world outcomes.
That means investing in ongoing training, right? Keeping them up to date on industry trends and best practices.
Absolutely. You have to equip them to translate those features into tangible benefits. Instead of saying, our software has real-time analytics, they should be saying, our real-time analytics allow you to make data-driven decisions about staffing, which can save you time and money.
Okay, so make it real and relevant to the customer's specific situation.
Got it.
What's the second essential skill?
Objection handling. This is an art form.
Oh, I bet. Especially in competitive selling.
Oh, absolutely. Objections are going to come up all the time, especially when prospects are considering multiple options.
Of course. So how do we equip our teams to handle those objections effectively?
The key is to turn those objections into opportunities to build trust. You need to train your team to actively listen, respond with clarity, and use data and examples to back up their claims.
That makes sense. We talked about the ARR framework earlier. That seems like it would be really useful here.
It is. It provides a really structured approach for acknowledging those concerns, reframing the conversation, and redirecting it towards your strengths.
Okay, so what's the third essential skill?
Building trust and credibility. At the end of the day, people buy from people they trust.
So how can sales leaders foster that trust and credibility within their teams?
Encourage transparency. If your product isn't the best fit for a particular need, be honest about it. Highlight where you excel, but don't overpromise or make claims that you can't support.
So authenticity is key.
Yes. And leverage social proof. Give your sales team those case studies, testimonial success stories that demonstrate the value you've delivered to other clients in similar situations.
Right. Show, don't just tell.
And of course, always follow through on your promises. If you say you're going to send something, send it. If you schedule a demo, be on time and be prepared.
It's the little things that build that trust.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the essential skills. Now, what about the mindsets? What kind of mindset do sales teams need to thrive in this competitive environment?
The article highlights three key mindsets. The first is putting customer value above all else.
Okay,
It's about finding the right customer, not just any
so
customer.
it's not about chasing every single deal.
Right. It's about focusing on the relationships where you can truly make a difference.
Okay, so focusing on the long term and building those relationships.
Exactly. Your sales team should be focused on delivering measurable value to their clients. It's about going beyond just features and pricing. It's about understanding the impact your solution can have on their business.
So encourage them to ask questions like, what are your biggest challenges? Or what does success look like for you?
Exactly. And then tailor your pitch to address those specific needs. And don't forget about gathering feedback. It's essential for making sure you stay aligned with those expectations.
Feedback is a gift. What's the second important mindset?
Branding matters. Your sales reps are brand ambassadors. They're representing your company in every interaction.
So it's all about consistency, right? Making sure their messaging and their behavior are aligned with your brand values.
Exactly. Invest in training that reinforces your brand voice and your values. Make sure your sales materials, your presentations, everything is consistent with your overall brand identity.
That makes sense. This seems like another area where a tool like Meet Record could be really valuable.
Absolutely. They can analyze those sales conversations and make sure that your brand personality is coming through consistently.
Okay, so it's like having a brand coach for your entire sales team. Very cool. Okay, so what about that third essential mindset?
Customer service at all stages.
I like that.
It's not just about closing the deal. It's about providing a seamless and supportive experience from the first interaction to long after the sale is made.
So customer service becomes part of the sales process.
It really should be a resource for your prospects. Guide them through the process, make sure they have all the information they need to make a good decision.
Don't overwhelm them, but be there to support them.
And once they become clients, the sales team should continue to check in and offer support. It's all about building those long-term relationships.
Right. The sale is just the beginning. Well, Nova, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with our listeners today.
It's been my pleasure.
To recap for everyone listening, competitive selling is not optional anymore. It's essential. Today, we've given you the knowledge, the strategies, the tools to really dominate in this new landscape.
It's about understanding your customer.
Yes. Build a strong UVP master the art of objection handling, and take advantage of the technology that's available to you.
See the competitive landscape as an opportunity, not a threat.
Love it. So that's it for our deep dive into competitive selling. We hope you found it valuable. And until next time, best of luck in all your sales endeavors.